Hello, Lynette here. Have you heard all the kerfluffle over this newest member of our Congress, Rashida Tlaib? She's Muslim and she's disgusting. She's a gross human being, coarse and loud, vulgar. And the reason she hit the news so much this week is because she was giving a speech someplace and big crowd around her, and her son was there, and she's screaming and waving her arms and said, "We're going to impeach that mother effer." Fill in the blank. Now, this is a woman who had once said on CNN that it was horrible the way Donald Trump spoke in public and the things that he said. So it's okay for her to do it, I guess, because she's a woman. It's not okay for him to do it. Nancy Pelosi also said, "Oh, it's very unfortunate, but I can't tell my House members what to say, and it's, there's freedom of speech." And Nancy also has screamed and railed against Donald Trump and in the public view and how people count on him. He shouldn't say the stuff that he says. He's never said mother effer. Sorry. That's like, get swear words, this, and then that's like up here. There's a couple words up here. And that phrase. For another thing, that's a man phrase. I'm sorry. Women don't use that. I have a mouth like a sailor. As a matter of fact, I let it go a lot. But I would never say that phrase because it's vulgar. It's just not something a woman should say. But she did, and she seemed to feel pretty confident about it. She is disgusting. I did some research, which just killed me because I had to watch her speak and give speeches. The reason she got this job was A, she ran unopposed, and B, her district that she's representing is 70-some% black. And I'm assuming that number is correct because it was 77% black for her state legislature that she won. So I'm sure it's the same area. So say 70-some% black. And since she's a socialist, why, I guess these folks thought that she'd be the best thing. But, if you run unopposed, then you really don't have to have a platform at all. What are you going to do? I don't know. I guess you get 3 votes, you win because you got more than the person who wasn't there. She's the oldest of 14 children. Her parents have a 4th grade and an 8th grade education, respectively. And they came from Palestine, and her mother was pregnant with her on the plane, and then she was born here. So then all 13 other of her siblings were born in this country. Now, you tell me, if you have an 8th grade and a 4th grade education, and you come from Palestine, do you get a job with IBM when you get here? I don't think so. So how much of our American taxpayer money did she get as she was growing up? I'm going to venture to say a lot. So I guess that's why she's a socialist, because she thinks that the government should take care of everybody. But I sure would like to ask her that question. There was a clip of a young woman trying to ask her about, it was one of these rally things where she's fundraising, and this gal was trying to get her to speak to why she endorsed CAIR, C-A-I-R, which is I believe it's a Palestinian group, and it actually has ties to terrorism, but it's very pro-Palestine and very pro-Muslim, and she's very closely affiliated with it. But there's proof that it has ties to terrorism. I imagine that they fund some terrorist stuff. And this Rashida broad, she wouldn't answer the question. And at one point, she turned around and she pushed this woman's phone. Actually put her hand on this other woman's phone. That's not okay. Can you imagine if a man did that, somebody? He'd be in jail. Double standard all the time. She made a point of saying that she was not from Dearborn, because Dearborn, of course, is like, at this point, 80-90% Muslim. It's really bad. And she wanted to make sure that people knew that. So I guess that was her way of saying, Muslims didn't elect me, black people did. All right, whatever. The reason we need to be worried about this is if they get in places of our government, it will be harder and harder to speak out against Islam. As it is, it's virtually impossible. But we have to look at what happened in England. England has 650 members of parliament. So it's bigger than our Congress by 200. And they have 15 Muslim members. And this has grown every year. You can't say anything against Islam in England. In fact, there are people that it's basically a police force that comes around, if you say something against Islam or Muslim people on your Facebook or social accounts, there are people that will come knocking on your door. And to my knowledge, nobody's gone to jail yet, but the threat is actually very real. You truly could go to jail for a period of time for saying something like that because it's considered hate speech. And you better believe that having these members in parliament that are Muslims makes it all the more difficult for anybody to speak out and say, we have a problem with these undocumented immigrants here in London, and can we start maybe deporting some of them? It's never going to happen. And so now we have 1 in our Congress, and in 2 years it'll be 4. And where does it stop? I don't know how you make, obviously you can't make a test for your religion. Of course not. But you can inform people of what they mean to our country. And you can inform people of how they have different views and different attitudes. And I don't care if she wasn't born in this country. She is a hardcore Palestinian. She speaks the language fluently, as best I can tell. Her parents are still alive. And her 2 pudgy little boys they look like, well, anyway, they're very much a Palestinian family. So this is what is happening to our country, and it's not good. And if you say I'm a racist, well, there's so much proof out there of what happens when a country gets taken over by Islam. Here in Washington State, now, okay, so Donald Trump, when he became president, he was able to finally, after a lot of work, get our immigration rules changed so that there was 6 or 7 countries that weren't allowed to come here for security reasons. And I agree with that. But it also was a godsend as far as keeping Muslims out of our country. And yet, the other day I'm driving through suburban Seattle, and here's 3 women in full robes standing on the side of the street waiting for a bus. And I'm seeing more and more and more women in hijabs. And I think that they are slipping in through Canada because our largest group of overstayers on their visas is Canada. And they have a huge Muslim population up there. So people that are saying, well, Mexican immigrants are going to just do overstaying. No, it's not Mexicans that are flying in overstaying. They don't have the money to fly in here for starters. It's Canadians that are coming in. And it's still happening. And Dearborn is still Islamabad. And if you start looking at this stuff, what's happened to Europe, you will see why it's something we have to be aware of. It has to be talked about openly. Because once somebody's in Congress, then all of a sudden they enact something, they do a bill that says that all schools across the country have to allow prayer, on Fridays for these people, or whatever their religious rules are. And it gets passed because nobody can say no to these people, even if it's just 3 or 4 of them. They're not going to say no. That's a bad idea because we separate church and state in this country, even if you're not aware of it, because you're Palestinian. These are the things that happen, and it's all because of the left's effort to somehow raise up Islam and push down American white nationalist and Judeo-Christian values. It all happens at the same time. So start looking at some of these videos if you haven't lately. This is what the yellow vest thing is about. They started out as being about a gas tax, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that France has lost their country to Islam. And this is, I don't know, for some reason it's upsetting to people. So continue to watch this. The yellow vests are in their 8th week. Go. And I wish them the best. And we'll see what happens with this woman. We're going to hear a lot from her because she's loud and obnoxious and coarse and vulgar. And she's going to just make her big old face out there known. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.